Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. On Fridays, we talk about the product owner role in Scrum. We talk about patterns and anti-patterns that relate to ours and the team's collaboration with the product owner. And we've also put together a course to help you navigate that relationship. There's 18 modules, nearly 8 hours of tools, techniques, videos, handouts, presentations you can use to help you and your team work better with your product owner. The course is available at bit.ly/coach-your-PO. All lowercase, all one word. That's bit.ly/coach-your-PO. And now, on to the show, the Product Owner Show. Hello everybody, welcome to our TGIF, the Friday and Product Owner episode this week with Ryan Brook. Hi Ryan, welcome back.
Hi Vasco, it's good to be back.
So now in prep you were sharing something about the product owner role that got me really interested in the discussion of the different types of product owners we were just about to have. So why don't you start by introducing that thought that you just shared with me?
So I was just discussing with Vasco off air about product ownership being really misunderstood. That it's, to me, the accountability that is so powerful, but also one that a lot of organizations think they can do without. And I think that leads to a lot of anti-patterns when it comes to good and bad product ownership. Being completely open, I've yet to meet a product owner who I would say was awesome at their job. And hey, that's my job to help them improve. But it's just so misunderstood from the organization and the developer's perspective that they can sometimes box themselves into a place where they're not as effective as they could be.
All right. And that's why I said I'm very interested to hear your answer to the first question, which is give me an example of what might have been the worst product owner anti-pattern you've witnessed in your career.
The sign-off stance. And I'll exemplify that with a product owner who is so far away from their product because the organization has wanted to save money and split them across 5 or 6 different products because, hey, it's not a full-time job, right? And they were so far away from the problem that the developers were empowered, which was absolutely fantastic, but they were delegated to the point where they were in charge of that product. They would decide when the release was. They would determine whether the acceptance criteria that they were setting was okay. They were defining their own acceptance criteria. I know I said I used to be a teacher, but marking your own homework is not great, yeah, because it's easy to cut corners. And I think the reason why Scrum uses the term accountabilities is because we all support equally that the three-legged stool that the product sits on. So for me, that anti-pattern was just being so far away that you're just signing things off. You don't have a reason to decline a release because you just don't know. You don't know what's in it. You're not defining sprint goals because the teams are closest to the problem. So you don't have a vision and you're not executing on that. So just a really bad anti-pattern. Product owners need to be close to the teams because they're in the team. Yeah, they are an integral part of it. So to any product owner listening, get close to your teams and be an equal member of that team. It's really important to help developers move towards value.
Absolutely. And if nothing else, because developers are so busy with the day-to-day work, they don't have time to do the background work. I was going to say the groundwork, but it's actually the background work of understanding the business, understanding the customers, understanding the customer's business, understanding the customer's goals, small things, or at least they sound small, they end up being huge, of knowing the difference between a customer and a user, which are not always the same people. Like all of those things are super important background information that the PO needs to then coherently crystallize in the user stories and the vision and the features that they bring to the team.
Yeah, I mean, it's important. We hire people with certain skill sets, right? We hire developers if we're talking in a software environment because they're awesome at developing code. But as soon as we start using people for something that is maybe not their area of expertise, we're losing value. A product owner is great at engaging people. If we're not using them for that, then why have we got them? And I'm not trying to say that we don't need product owners. We absolutely do. My point is, I think was it Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or someone said, I pay people a lot of money to solve the problems and do their jobs properly so that I don't have to. And that's why we need product owners to guide us towards value. And like you said, crystallize what the developers should be working on. And that's how we get the maximum value out of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Not an easy job for sure, but there are some good product owners out there. So we want to talk about an example of a good product owner that you worked with in your career. So Ryan, walk us through that.
So yeah, I mean, this is clear as day for me. She was called Mandy. She was awesome. I mean, the fact that I can still remember her name after quite a few years, it just shows how good she was. She was personable. Nothing was too much trouble for her. And she understood and asked what the teams needed to be able to deliver the value she wanted. So the way she did it was she printed out on just little cards, high level outcomes that she wanted. Okay. These weren't product backlog items. It wasn't a product backlog at this point, but she basically said, these are the problems I want you to help me solve. And she empowered the teams to go away, refine and resolve some technical solutions. And it was great because the teams were bought in. They understood the ask before they'd considered a solution. I find a lot of product owners like to think that they're quite technical and say, I want you to implement it this way. And so that's how it's executed by the developers. Whereas this person, Mandy, she was very much, these are my problems, but you are the ones that are going to solve it. So give me some potential solutions and I will work with you to refine those. She placed herself in a position of service. I think we talk a lot about servant leadership when it comes to Scrum, but we talk a lot about the Scrum Master being a servant leader. Actually, the product owner is a servant leader to the product and also helps the developers. I think there's two or even three aspects. We're all servant leaders in a Scrum team in a different way. So she was just powerful because she kept things simple. She kept things value oriented. And the biggest thing she did, and the reason why she was the best product owner, is she didn't ask for too much. She kept it small. She took in a lot less, but what she was getting at the end of it was much higher value work. And she upheld the team's ability to self-manage.
Yeah, the idea of starting from the problem is, I think for me, it's transformative. The role of the product owner completely changes when it starts being about solving problems for a customer or a user rather than delivering more features. In fact, I usually say that features are a liability, right? I mean, think about it. We have to have meetings about it. We have to have documents about it. We will have bugs submitted about it. People will contact support or sales or whatever to understand what is this feature supposed to do, or how do I use it? Like, every feature adds cost to how the product works, but not all features add value. So starting from the problem perspective allows us to focus exactly on what impact we want to have on the customer's or user's life rather than what is another feature we want to add. So I think that's an incredibly powerful stance to have as a product owner, which is, I don't want much, but I want this problem solved, not I want these features implemented.
Absolutely. And do you know what? To add to what you just said, holding the teams accountable as well. I've seen product owners who just accept that the increment wasn't done. Okay. And sometimes some half-assed reasons why that was the case. And I think product owners are doing themselves a disservice if they don't say, you know what, guys, you committed to validating this sprint goal for me. I gave you the problem to solve, okay, but I'm sitting here in a retrospective and I'm not hearing any ways to improve. Holding people to account in the Scrum team is so important, but it's also respectful. We respect each other, but we also in the Scrum team respect ourselves. We expect everyone to be equal and to do what they said they were going to do. And I think that's why product owners can be either really weak or really powerful. They know what they want, great, but they need to hold people accountable for getting them there. As long as they look in the mirror and say, you know what, I did everything that I was accountable for, then actually there is a time when, we need to put it back onto the teams. A product owner is often considered wrongly to be a hierarchy, to be a manager. If things go wrong for the product, hey, that's on the product owner. It's not, but that's a common misconception. And so we need to make sure that those product owners are empowered to manage their product. Yeah, not the team, but manage the product. And that's the difference between a good product owner and a great one.
Yeah, absolutely. Great introduction to some fine details that make a big difference for the product owner role. Thank you for that, Ryan. Now, unfortunately, we're getting close to the end, but before we do go, do share with us, where can we find out more about you and the work that you're doing?
So I'm always welcome some connections on LinkedIn. So please do look there. I also run a workshop called scrumlake.com, which I co-facilitate with John Albrecht, which is basically a safe community of practice for Scrum Masters to explore Scrum. But it's not about fake stories. What I've been talking about with Vasco here is very much the truth and real. None of those stories are fictitious. And that's what we do at Scrum Lake. We use metaphors and stories to get people to pull their real stories out, and we help each other work through them in a very collaborative fashion. And people tend to enjoy it. So yeah, scrumlake.com is the place to go.
Absolutely. I will put the links on the show notes so that people can go and check out scrumlake.com, the workshop, and connect with Ryan on LinkedIn. Absolutely. Ryan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
You're very welcome. I'd always welcome questions to come back to me directly or indirectly as well. So if anybody has any questions about the stories and it chimes with them that they've got a similar situation, reach out to me, and I'm always happy to have a follow-up conversation with people.
That's it. Scrum Masters, take action. One more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is over, but there's a lot more we have to share. We have developed our own membership site where you find a community of active and engaged Scrum Masters. In this site, you get access to exclusive content and get to interact with us, your podcast hosts, as well as the best Scrum Masters in the world. Join us at scrummastertoolbox.com/podcast and keep this podcast free of advertising. See you next week for one more week full of Scrum Master tips and tricks. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.